What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and of course the new treasure map is going to be coming up very shortly, July 17th, mark it down in your calendars. Treasure map versus Spandam, and you can super evolve Arlong in this event. And in today's video, we're going to go through like the preparation teams, not my own personal teams, but these are going to be teams that you may be able to build in order to get around the content. I mean, we've already talked about Arlong when the data download came out. I think he's okay. I just don't think he's going to see like that much usage, unfortunately. One thing to note as well is that it mentions in this treasure map that it's going to contain more card hexes. Limited items in the treasure bazaar as well are going to be available. So I believe Super Cola is going to be purchasable from the treasure map shop for a limited quantity. But it does state that there are more chances to land on cards during this event, which is kind of fascinating. I don't know why they decided to do that for this particular event, but hey, it is what it is, I guess. But the big thing about this treasure map event, and it's causing a lot of stir in the community, is this boosted list absolutely sucks. I don't know what they're doing, but it just feels like there's just not a lot of units that are actually boosted. Like a lot of recently released units, of course. So you got the new batch, which makes sense. Then you got like Nami Robin, and you got like Nami Robin's batch. The Chopper from the Kizuna is still boosted, 6+ lore. Free to play treasure map Blackbeard from the past treasure map and stuff. You got the TM Legends, which is a stock standard at this point, all the size Straw Hats, but like, there's just not a lot of boosted units, right? Like, you have a look at this, like, look at all the additional boosted units outside of like, recent units and the stock standard ones that are always boosted. There's just not a lot of units, so this is really up to your discretion in terms of how you build certain teams, and specifically the mini bosses, because normally we have like an abundance of these TM boosters, and you can just kind of like plug holes in like, you know, spots in your team. But considering the amount of characters that are actually boosted, I think a lot of people are going to have to run non-boosted units in this treasure map, which is the way that it's kind of panning out, which is really not ideal. So yeah, this is something that I really hope that they continue to change in the future, because this is just not going to cut it, honestly. And like, a lot of people already don't like treasure map, and then doing this on top of it is not really giving any favors to the community at all. So yeah, that's a really big issue, honestly, that I see right now with TM. But I'm here to talk about teams to help you guys out. So let's go ahead and jump into things. We're not going to start off with the Intrusion boss. We're going to start off with the normal boss, which is Fukuro. So Fukuro is the starter boss, and you do see a lot of blank units on this squad, mainly due to the fact that, you know, it just depends on what you have. Like, build your other teams first, build your Intrusion boss, which you can use anything, build your final boss teams, and then after that, kind of plug holes from that point on. But I will say that 6+ Wano lore and also the Jinbei are going to be very, very good for this fight. Main reason for that is because the enemy will change all your slots into int, and then treat int as non-beneficial for 6 turns. So it's int, strength, dex, and quick slots are all non-beneficial for 6 turns. The main reason why this is good is because lore as a captain changes int slots into Wano. You've got special bind and paralysis, which is what this Jinbei is for. Jinbei also gives color affinity, lore gives orb boost, chain boundary, and does end of turn damage, which gets around the resilience of the enemy. So these two units are the recommended units, gets around everything in this fight. So if you have the units, definitely just use them, because, you know, it helps you get through Fukuro very, very comfortably. Okay, so moving on versus Ikaros, this is actually kind of a weird fight, because they suggest to use Mihawk and Lore. Now, I might be missing something here, but during this fight, there's actually 2 hits of Special Reverse, and I don't actually know how you're supposed to get around the 2 hits of Special Reverse, because it's for all characters, not for like just captains or just crewmates. It is for all characters, and from what I can see, I don't think there's any component of the recommended units that deal with Special Reverse. So I think that might have been a missed opportunity, or maybe they overlooked something, because that just doesn't make sense to me. But in terms of the rest of the gimmicks, you've got Lore, which changes block slots. You've got Mihawk, which gets around the Rainbow Shield, using double Mihawk, of course. And Carrot Winder, because they're just a really solid unit here. But again, just plugging holes just to ensure you can get around the gimmicks at hand is kind of like what you want to do. And the recommended units of Lore and Mihawk just kind of help, honestly, in this fight. So yeah, this is a bit of a weird one, but you know, I would suggest building this team probably last, because the gimmicks aren't super difficult to get around, and you only have to really build for, you know, for just building a dex team, so it's not too tricky to build for. So getting into Sasaki, this is the 3rd Battle Rush boss, and I do think this one is actually a little tricky. There's a lot of different gimmicks, and this fight, they want you to use, like, the new Legend Nami and the Belmere character that came out at the start of the month, which a lot of people are just not going to have. So what we're doing here instead is I am using Ace and Yamato because their captain ability will get around the bind that's inflicted and the special bind, so we don't have to worry about those gimmicks at all. And another thing why they're so good is they do have the hunger potential ability, so another reason they just get around another piece of gimmick here. So another thing here is that there is going to be block slots or badly matching slots, so having someone to change those into matching is good. And also there will be paralysis, 5 hits of paralysis, which is why we have the supports of Mr. 1 on Bon Clay and Nami on Ace and Yamato. So those two supports literally get around everything. We do have Koala here because she's a boosted unit that gives color affinity, which is pretty dope. One thing that I did actually overlook is that there is a barrier where you have to use tandem slots to break through the barrier. So of course, if you use the new Legend Nami, that does give you a full board of tandem slots. So you could use this with a friend Captain Nami. That will work pretty effectively, actually. But if you're not doing that, then you just need to put a unit on the team to generate the tandem slots for you. I can't remember correctly, does Ace Yamato have Barrier Pierce? No, they don't even have Barrier Pierce, which kind of sucks, so you can't use that to just like break through the barrier. So yeah, Sasaki I think is going to be a little bit of a challenging fight. So having captains that deal with a bunch of gimmicks in their captain effect is going to be some of the best characters to use to get around the Sasaki fight. So this team will work, but you do need a way to break through that tandem slot barrier, whether it be a character that removes 3 turns of barrier or a character that can generate tandem slots for you. If worse comes to worse, you could just use Zoro Sanji dual unit on this team, use their switch effect, and that changes adjacent slots into tandem. That will also work. So there are quite a lot of ways you could, get around the gimmicks at hand. The last of the Battle Rush bosses is Senor Pink, and this fight just looks kind of ridiculous. They really want you to use the new Legend Robin and the Nico Olvia character that came out at the start of the month. Once again, not everyone is going to have those units, but the way that we are getting around this particular content is just by using Gear 5. So use 2 Gear 5s and make sure that you use the EX Super of one of the Gear 5s and keep one of the other ones as the base Gear 5 Luffy, because when you kill Senor Pink, he does do a 200,000 death damage, so that allows you to use the revive mechanic, which is fantastic. We can use one of the EX Supers to transform into Gear 5 so that we can bypass enemy defensive effects, the damage nullification, and the Rainbow Shield in particular. And now, as for the supports, you do see that we have a support on Ace on Luffy and Komurasaki on Zoro. Now, the thing is you don't need both of these supports. You only need one of them, or just any type of support that generates a chain boost. The thing is if you activate a chain lock on this stage, on the final boss stage, he does react to it, so don't do that. If you have a chain lock that lasts for multiple turns, you can activate it on stage 2, carry it into stage 3, like Izo Okiku, for example. That's a potential idea. Or if you have just some other character that can generate a chain lock for you, because there is chain attack down, where you have to exceed 2.5 times for your chain. So any type of chain boost will do, but obviously the higher the chain boost, the better and more successful your team will be. Hiyori and Ace supports will both do the same thing. It just depends on which character you have or don't have. There is also a potentially V1 Sanji, a really old legend that can attach to a bunch of Straw Hats, use their special, get a chain boost. I think it's a 0.5 chain boost. The supports you're seeing on this team are a 0.7 chain boost. So either way, those characters will work, just depends on what you have and what you want to do. And now we get to finally talk about the final boss, which is versus Spandam, and it goes without saying that the friend captain for this team is going to be the new SugoFest exclusive Frankie. Now, we are using a non-boosted captain here, which is Dogstorm. Main reason for that is because by using him, it means we don't have to worry about the enemy's defensive effects, because there is multiple turns of Rainbow Shield, multiple turns of damage threshold, and yes, Frankie does allow you to get around it, but due to the, the structure of the fight, it is just easier just to have a character as a captain that allows you to bypass it without even having to worry. So that honestly really helps out. So Dogstorm, you don't have to use him in particular. You could use Cat Viper, you could use Carrot. There's a bunch of options you could use instead. But I felt Dogstorm was pretty good because it synergizes with the rest of the team, and I'll talk about it in just a moment. So in terms of the gimmicks, on stage 2, you get hit with attack down, you get hit with stun for your bottom 2 rows, and there is Rainbow Shield. Now, the thing is we're going to use Arlong to get around the stun. The problem is he does cut our health in half. and that obviously is a pretty major issue, because when you have Dogstorm as a captain, he says you need to be at 50% or above at the start of the attack in order to bypass enemy defensive effects. So that's why we have the support on Nami, which is the Robin support. So that allows us to get 1500 HP heal, which will put us back over that 50% threshold. And another thing is that we do have the Nami to remove attack down, but it's 6 turns. Nami only removes 5, and of course this is with max level limit break version of Nami. If you don't have her at level limit break 5, you need to do it for this team to actually function. Very worthwhile though. This Nami is fantastic, by the way. But the other support, we have Ashura Doji attached to Izo and Okiku. That support removes 1 turn of attack down and gives an attack boost, which is pretty cool. Realistically, because we have Dogstorm on the team and he already provides us an attack boost because we're going to use him on the same turn, we probably actually want to switch that up for something like the K-Dad character, but we can't really do that either, I don't think, because we have overlap in that fashion, but it's fine. It's going to work either way. So we have the support of Ashura Doji on Izo Okiku to provide us with the 1 turn of attack down removal. Nai removes 5 turns of it. Izo and Okiku give us a chain lock on stage 2, and it carries into stage 3, which is actually really, really important. Gives us a lot of additional damage there. And then Arlong, of course, as I said, to remove the stun. Now, when we use Dogstorm special, we need to hit 2 perfects so that when we reach the last stage, that the Dogstorm special will actually give us an orb boost on stage 3. That's going to be pretty clutch. When we reach the last stage, we want to activate the Frankie and the Dogstorm super type. Now that effect is kind of clutch because we do get special reverse on our top and bottom rows. It's 6 turns for our captains and it's 2 turns for our subs. So we can activate the EX super or the super class of Frankie, super type of Dogstorm, super class of Dogstorm. Both of which will provide cooldown, and then Frankie's special ability will give cooldown to all characters as well. So use the super specials of our captains, then it allows us to use all of the rest of our specials, which would be the Frankie special, which gives color affinity, and then we can activate the Luffy and Ace special, which gives us an attack boost for our crew. So that's just kind of how the team works. It's a bit of a weird one, of course. The Izo Okiku chain is important here as well, because there is a chain attack down. The chain needs to exceed 3.0. The chain lock from Izo and Okiku is a 3.5 chain lock, so that will work. One thing to note as well, do not activate a chain boost on the final stage, because if you do, then the enemy will remove your beneficial effects and give you 10 turns of special bind. So obviously you don't want to do that at all. So this team should work, get the job done, of course, but unfortunately not the major boost that we were kind of looking for, mainly just because, you know, there's not a lot of effective ways to use the boosted list to get around a lot of the gimmicks in hand. So yeah, the boosted list is kind of suffering for everyone, honestly. Even for myself, even by pulling one of the boosted units, it's still going to be a pretty tough TM to build for. And finally, we get to the Intrusion battle boss against Arlong, and it goes without saying that Frankie is going to be the friend captain for this squad once again. So the way that this team works is we're going to use the switch effect, or the super switch that is, of Nami and Karina. So we start as Nami, super switch into Karina on stage 2, and that will change all the block slots that we're given into G slots, as well as enhancing the multiplier of those slots, which is fantastic. We can then use the Cat Viper special, which gives us an orb boost, and it will give us an attack boost when we move into the next turn. Marker removes 5 turns of burn. It doesn't remove all of the burn, unfortunately, but what it will do is it means by the time we reach the final stage, the burn will be completely expired, which is important because it's the super version of burn, not the normal burn, which means that you can't just kill the enemy and then tank the hit after the fact. No, you take the damage as you hit your perfects with super burn, which really does suck. And then finally, before you move on to the last stage, you want to activate the Karina special, which removes the enemy's increased defense. Very important that you do that. By moving on to that next stage, we get inflicted with a bunch of different debuffs, but the Jinbei on this team helps us remove the 6 turns of special bind and the 6 turns of paralysis. There is going to be blowaway as well, which is why Frankie as our friend captain is pretty much a requirement in order to get through this content. And then there's also going to be 6 turns of Rainbow Shield, which isn't really going to matter because we're going to have Cat Viper as our main captain, which allows us to completely bypass it anyway. The main reason why I opted for Cat Viper on this team is because we can get an attack boost when we activate his special in stage 2, carry it into stage 3, which is going to be nice. But the other thing is that if you actually remove the enemy's Rainbow Shield, the enemy will interrupt and apply 6 turns of Rainbow Shield again. Now, he does only activate the interrupt once, but it just basically means you have to remove like 6 turns of Rainbow Shield and then activate another special to remove another 6 turns of Rainbow Shield. It's just really stupid. I don't know why they structured the content in that way. It just makes it so frustrating to build effective teams against it. So yeah, it just makes the whole team building process kind of frustrating. Arlong is here just because he's a high boosted unit you can chuck on the team, but Arlong is not required for this team at all. Nami Karina is super clutch here. Marco isn't really needed either. He's only really here to remove burn. So you could replace Marco with basically whatever you want, so long as you're being careful with how you tap, of course. So these teams will all work against this content, of course, but do be careful about some of the other things as I mentioned, in particular about this team. Make sure you have some type of way to generate tandem slots for Sasaki, and then plug just kind of whatever you want into the rest of these teams, and you should be pretty much good to go to take on the content at hand. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting treasure map to see how we kind of go up against this one, just due to the fact that the gimmicks look pretty harsh and our boosted list is pretty bad. So with all of that being said, that is going to wrap it up from me. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.